podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast. My name's Dan and I'm in the host chair this week as Harley's taken a well-deserved break. We've still got Carwyn who's joined us battling through the man flu. Carwyn, how are you?
Yeah, well put. I certainly am one of those that makes a regular day-to-day cold seem like it's Armageddon. But yeah, I'm struggling through a little bit of a cold at the moment. But yeah, otherwise I'm okay.
Good stuff. And we're also joined this week by our first special guest of the summer of guest podcasts. We've got the big boss in, Cardiff Rugby Chief Executive, Richard Holland. Dickie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I'm coming off the back of a bit of a, I think I might pass my lurgy on to Carwyn, although we haven't seen each other. But apologies for delayed recording. I had a bit of it myself, so I'm doing all right other than that, thanks.
All good. There's a Cardiff Central Podcast super spreader event going on. So just to start on a sort of general level, Dickie, 2023-24 coming to an end now. Weird and wonderful season in a lot of ways from the sort of chief exec's chair. How do you sum it up altogether?
Oh, blimey. I guess on and off the field is sort of two very different stories. Let's take on the field first, as that's the reason why we're all here. Obviously it was a season of going pretty close on most of our games. That's been well publicised, isn't it, in terms of the number of bonus points we picked up by close losses. It got to a point where I felt so sorry for the boys and the coaches because I witness the amount of effort that goes into everything on a weekly basis and across the whole season, and on occasions we probably didn't get the just rewards for the rugby that we played and the effort that was put into things by the players. So where we finished was probably a reflection on the professional game in Wales, which I'm sure we'll come on to in due course. It's challenging times, but we've got to admire the fight from our young squad. We've deployed a strategy of developing the young talent, and it's great to see a head coach that sticks to that task and has exposed the players, and the outcome of that is what we see on the tour, just left for Australia, where a number of our youngsters are now about to earn caps for Wales over Australia, have done already in Twickenham, and we're hugely proud of that. So in terms of the development, it can only set us in good stead moving forward. Immensely proud of that, but we'd like to have converted some of those close losses into wins, but I'm sure it'll stand us in good stead for the future. So that's the on-field bit. Off the field, clearly we went through some pretty difficult times following Peter Thomas's passing, and with a primary focus on trying to bring in new owners to take on Cardiff into the future. Unfortunately, we can sit here now that I achieved that objective, and we're now in the early stages of that relationship with Helford Capital, and that working relationship continues, and as they embed their strategy into Cardiff, it's made a little bit challenging by the strategy that is being discussed at the centre, because obviously until that gets embedded or decided, then it's very difficult at the minute to go into any great sort of strategic discussions for Cardiff, not knowing what the future might look like. But we know the challenges. We know what the future might look like, but it's still a bit of uncertainty. But as the days and weeks go by, we're starting to put things in place.
You mentioned there about the off the field, and I spoke to Reece Blumberg, who obviously has now moved on to Dragons during the season, and he spoke about the messaging that had been going on around the club, around the young players coming through, and then on top of that, you've got Matt Sherratt, who speaks so well about the club and the young players. How have you felt around that, the messaging around the club, and what that's brought around the positivity around it this season?
Well, do you know what, Carl? I just we've got brilliant supporters, and it's been hugely eye-opening to watch all our supporters and corporate partners get behind the team despite some of the results on the field not going in our favor, and it epitomizes Cardiff, doesn't it? It's the Cardiff supporters would rather see us develop the young talent, would rather see a brand of rugby where 100% effort is put in, and a brand and style of rugby is deployed that is that Cardiff is renowned for and famous for, and we've seen that come through the turnstiles, through our season tickets, and through our commercial lines. We were quite lucky last season, weren't we? We were chatting before we came on air live about the EPCR pool draw yesterday, and whilst we're still not sure who we're playing. Last season we got lucky, didn't we? We had Bath at home, we had Harlequins at home, coupled with the Derby fixtures. We had some really sort of friendly timings in terms of broadcasting, and they led to us sort of selling out the Arms Park and having the commercial successes. That galvanised the team in those fixtures. Okay, we didn't qualify out the group, and the URC results, as we've already discussed. But the early signs for this season are we're tracking on target for our season memberships for the coming season, and our supporters want to come and see this team continue to develop. Managing expectations on it, we'd like to see some slight improvements, but given the resource that we're putting into the side in terms of financial resource, we've got to be manage those expectations, and we'd like to see the conversion of some of those close losses into wins. But it's still going to be challenging. But we'll continue to develop those players. We've strengthened the coaching side in terms of giving Jockey some additional resource. Gethin comes in full time, which is great. We've got Cornel Van Zyl coming in. We've got strengthening other support services in around the rugby department, and we've also on Monday a new head of recruitment started, Darren Allenson, who used to play 9 for Cardiff. So the supporters will remember. And these are important additions to the squad, and as a sign that the importance that I and the board put on ensuring that we've got the right people in those seats to take us forward. So there's some exciting stuff happening, but let's manage expectation and some small improvements, whilst but understanding that we still got to compete with clubs and provinces, whether it's South Africa, Ireland, or in Europe, that have got huge budgets, and we'll give it a good go. And I'm looking forward to the new season.
Just touching on the amount of players you got in the summer squad this year, obviously it's great tick in the box of sort of the work that Griff Rhys and Jockey have done bringing them through. I think there is still sometimes from supporters a chat about, is it better to keep lads at the club and they don't get sort of beasted over the summer and come back injured or broken? But from the club's point of view, previously there was a tangible sort of financial benefit worked into the agreement with the WRU. Is there still sort of financial and commercial major positives to players being in that national team?
Yeah, so when I first took over, was it blimey 13 years ago? We literally would receive financial benefit for every player in the national squad. The financial model clearly doesn't do that now, and so if we're putting 13 players in, another regional club is putting 3 or 4, it's that there isn't a variable model to compensate for that. But we've got what we've got. But we know our job here is to develop players to play for Wales as well as to be successful for Cardiff. And we're super proud of those guys that go on to do that, and we'll continue the work that we do. And I watched the game with Jockey in the Six Nations. We watched the Six Nations game at an airport on my iPad, and I watched how excited he got when any of our players touched the ball in a red shirt, and it was incredible. He was. We were in an airport lounge, and he was screaming at the laptop because of the pride he had and showed for his guys playing for Wales. And it's ultimately an ambition for, I would suggest, all of our players. So it's a sign that we're doing something right. It's a sign that our development pathways are working. It's a sign that the coaching that we're and exposing these players are all working. And it's definitely a strategy that we'll continue to employ moving forward. But we're in the process of looking at how we can support our Welsh talent with overseas talent to overcome some of the challenges that we face when we lose so many players to the centre. So the URC continues, and whilst they've done an okay job in trying to separate the international and domestic leagues, the fact of the matter is, when you pick up injuries, when you've got guys coming back who have played a number of international games, you've got to give them a bit of rest and recovery. The depth, the challenge starts to arise when you haven't got the depth in the squad to be able to then go out and compete in URC in Europe. So we'd like to do a bit more of that, and we're looking at how we do that at the moment. And Darren, as our head of recruitment, will also play a significant part in that process as well.
Obviously, you touched as well on the new owners there. Just how difficult was that deal getting over the line? As obviously it involved sort of changing the articles of association and going to shareholders to get that through. It was September, I think, when it was first mentioned. It was December when it was pretty much confirmed, in January when it was taken to the EGM. Is that something you look back on as quite a challenging time?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the first challenge was finding owners to take the reins over from Peter and subsequently the family. And fortunately, I had already had connections with Phil and Neil through Helford Capital, primarily for Phil Kemp, who I met when I first started in Celtic Manor, crikey, back in the late 90s. So I had a long-standing relationship with him, and I was able to bring him and Helford to the table. So that was the first challenge. The biggest challenge, being honest, was you mentioned the articles, but there were numerous parties involved on the shareholding side, and unfortunately, a lot of the administration that needed to have been done hadn't been done prior to Peter's death. So we had a lot of work to do on. We were doing a lot of transactions with shareholders who had deceased, and not just Peter, and their estates. And that became hugely complicated and hugely challenging. And this is sort of stuff that at the time, due to the sensitivities of it, we didn't want to go public with, out of respect for the individuals and their families involved. But I don't know if in things like probate and things like legal agreements and powers of attorney. I mean, it was every. At one point, I thought this is going to be nigh on impossible. But I must say a huge thanks to Athletic Club, to the trustees at Athletic Club, to the to our board and shareholders, to Paul Bailey, to the Smart family. Without them, their agreements and their support, we wouldn't have been able to get it across the line and get the shareholding to Helford that they required to complete the transaction. So yeah, in answer to the question, it was very complicated and at times slightly hairy, because put simply, that there wasn't, there weren't exactly numerous horses in the race, in terms of options, and we needed to achieve what we needed to achieve to get Helford across the line. So we now sit here having concluded that, and as I say, I'm grateful to everyone, and having Alan by my side, you're working through it was so valuable, given his background experience and calmness in situations like that. And we'll always be grateful to the Thomas family and all those other shareholders I mentioned, for supporting us and agreeing. And we hope the rest is history, and we look to the future.
So on that future, then obviously there is large elements out of the club's control in terms of sort of what the WRU are doing next. But in terms of what we can control, I think, there was perhaps a bit of a misconception that the new owners would come in, and, there was mention in the press of Faf de Klerk and all this sort of stuff, and big name signings. I think perhaps their immediate aims lie elsewhere. You've talked about the coaching staff being bolstered and looking at our own facilities after Pentwyn didn't happen, and doing stuff at the Arms Park. What is the relationship like with the owners? How involved are they? And what are their immediate plans for elements that they can control in the short term?
Yeah, listen, the relationship is very, very strong. I speak to them 3 or 4 times a day. What time are we now? We're 8:15, and I've already had a call with one of them this morning, just to catch up on a few bits. So it's they're at the coalface. They're involved in the in the week to week, day to day decision making, without being too intrusive in terms of allowing me to get on with it. But there as a support and taking a daily interest in the direction of travel. I just picking up your point on and I use the word marquee players without using individual names. Yes, we've got an appetite to bring in marquee players, but just feel at the moment, Dan, the timing would be wrong. We've got more important decisions to take with regards to our squad composition than spending vast sums of money on marquee players when it's well publicised we're operating to a salary cap at 4.5 million. It doesn't seem right that we would go out and spend call it £500,000 on one player, £1 million on two, when we've got those restrictions to put a squad together. We've made a commitment that we're and what do I say? Commitment. It's a strategic decision to back our talent and back our youngsters and develop through the strong pathways and that we have in place that Griff has developed. So yes, as I said earlier, we'll be looking at overseas talent. We don't have the financial resources that currently stands through the distribution models to do those marquee players you mentioned, and our plan is definitely and the owner's appetite is definitely to grow the club and make us competitive again. But our plan is to do that organically, and get the product right for them to invest in. And I touched on the strategy. We're in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. That I think we would all say our strategy is, we want to win. We want to be competitive. Our owners want to win. They want to be competitive. We're working very, very closely with the Welsh Rugby Union, which is I'm hugely encouraged about. and collectively a new strategy will be implemented. If we're the beneficiaries at whatever level of that, then we can take stock of what the outcomes of that strategy will be, and sit down with our owners and our board, and finish off the strategic strategy that we want to embed here at Cardiff. And my board are sort of pester me on a weekly basis, saying, "Well, when are we going to sit down and have our own strategic discussions?" And Alan and I are saying, "Well, listen, hang fire. The first part of the jigsaw puzzle that needs to be put in place is the strategy for the professional game. We then will understand what the direction of travel is." And I don't want to start using all these cliches because it's a bit sort of corporate jargon, but the reality is it's common sense. Let's wait for that strategy to be finalized, and then we'll go to the owners, or we'll sit down with the owners and our board and decide how we can supplement that either financial resource or whatever else support is required, and move forward.
Yes. Yeah, simply put, I was there last Wednesday when the WIU strategy was announced, and I won't use what one journal described it as, but it's a set of goals without the hows at the moment, isn't it? That's basically the situation there is. But there was a lot of conversation, particularly from Abby, about the relationships that are now forming between the regions and the WIU, and that's been allegedly, apparently, quite a fractured relationship in the past. Would you agree that there's a more cohesive goal that you're all working towards and you're all pulling in the same direction now?
Listen, I've got a lot of experience in this seat, haven't I? And I've seen lots of regimes, or many regimes, pass through the WIU, and I can safely say that this is the I'm not going to say the first, but it seems the regime that seems to be taking the professional game, and seeing the importance of it to the national game, and it's as one anyway, isn't it? The national team are our professional players. It's that the two are symbiotic, and it's our fears of many years ago, for those of us sat around the table, of the damage that the lack of investment and focus on the professional game would have on the national game have started to come true, and that's hugely concerning, and needs to be sorted as soon as possible, because it's when the national game starts struggling, it's you start talking about big financial numbers, and we collectively, everyone needs to address it. So the executive, led by Abby, the interactions I've had, which are frequent, whether it's around PRB table, whether it's individually, are that the pro game is an important area that needs to be a priority and a focus. And I'm really encouraged as to the early signs, but obviously as we get into and deeper into the strategy discussions, we're around the table, and as are the other professional clubs and the union, and everyone's aware of the challenges that lie ahead in structuring that. But it remains to be seen what the outcomes will be. But I'm encouraged at the work that's been going on so far.
Yeah, you mentioned the previous regime. One of the things that came out was they didn't have a profit and loss for different areas of the revenue of the business, which blows my mind. But anyway, one of the things then you said was all the regions are coming together to the table, but there is this thing hanging over now that it's on the table, a possibility that we might go down to 3 regions, a restructure of the regions. I know that is a final resort, but in my head, if you've got 4 regions working together and then there's the possibility that one of them might go, eventually it's going to become competitive between them. Is that something you feel as well, or is it something that you'd say that
I don't,
currently you're all working towards a common goal?
yeah, I don't pay it a huge amount of attention really. I've got confidence in our club. I've got confidence in our executive and our rugby team, and I don't think about it. I know what the opportunity is here at Cardiff, and it excites me. We're in an early stage relationship with our new owners, and I'm excited about that. So I don't dwell on the negative stuff, and I in terms of my position, it's since I've been here, we've always had four professional clubs. It's it's to the ideal situation, and I think everybody would agree with this, is to find the funding and support and the model to ensure that all four can continue, be competitive, and thrive. Does that mean that the funding models might have to be adjusted or mended in the short term to supercharge or expedite the achievement of that objective? Possibly. But listen, my number one priority is Cardiff, and the Arms Park, is such a massive opportunity for us commercially. It's I think I've said this on many occasions over the years in terms of our relationship with Athletic Club, but it is better now than it's ever been. There are new proposals on the table that are being considered that would be for the benefit of not just Cardiff Rugby, but for the Athletic Club and the Welsh Rugby Union. And if it's beneficial to the Welsh Rugby Union, it's beneficial to the whole of the professional game. It's so I'm excited about that. But I just don't. It never goes through my mind that that Cardiff would be would ever not be a chosen entity or in existence. It just doesn't cross my mind really. I just focus in on what we're doing in the here and now, in the short medium term, and look forward to delivering a strategy with my colleagues that's in the best interests of the pro game.
We had a listener question from Charlie come in after the strategy last week. I think it was mentioned during it that the four pro clubs have been given sort of set of KPIs and minimum standards to achieve. I don't know, probably not going to list exactly what Cardiff have been given, but just generally, how confident are you that we're on track and can meet those that have been set out for us?
They've always been in place, to be honest with you, Dan. This, whether it's the PRA or the RSA or the other agreements have been in place. There's always been, ultimately, I think it's important to stress in terms of the, and I pick things up on social media. A lot of the income we receive from the WRU is our money anyway. It's just competition wash through. It's the WRU funding that we receive that has got obligations attached to it, whether that's regard to player release, whether that's regard to academy structure, whether that's regards to our commercial marketing activities. But to be honest with you, it's largely stuff that we would do anyway. It's almost like a minimum standards as opposed to a KPI, and it's to ensure that the regions are spending the Welsh Rugby Union's money wisely on areas of the business that they see as important, as opposed to possibly flowing out the door and lining or paying back some of our PI benefactor monies. So are they? The KPIs might be something that gets driven out of the new strategy discussions, but as it stands at the moment, there's not a whole new raft of KPIs that have been passed our way as a result of this new strategy. There's a load of a lot of the work that's gone on, not a lot of it, most of it is all been through a collaborative process anyway, that we've been around the table agreeing on and being part of those decision making. So yeah, it's nothing sort of fresh on the table. There's always been those types of sort of performance and structural elements have been contained anyway.
Just one last one from me on this strategy. I think the numbers 35 million spread over 5 years was the funding gap mentioned. I think the WIU's response was something along the lines of the 2 million extra revenue coming from the regions or something like that, if I'm right. But they've also made cuts themselves of about, or identified to this date, cuts that they can make of around 4 million. Are you expecting to make cuts somewhere in Cardiff to try and improve things? But also, do you think there's room to grow, to improve that revenue, improve that growth for the region itself as well?
We've made so many cuts, Carwyn. Blimey. I mean, I think the regions, and I know our sort of numbers intimately, but on average, I think the regions are cut 30% out of their P&Ls already, and there's no meat on the bone. It's you can't keep turning to something that's that's lean as you can possibly get at. I think people, because of our brands, I think people think that we've got these enormous teams that operate behind the scenes. We're so lean. You'll be familiar with our marketing team. It's 3 people. We've got small finance teams. We've got small commercial teams and operational teams. And when we do have spare resource, you know that we've had to last season make some sacrifices on the rugby side, and we're looking to put those people back in place as resource becomes made available from our new owners, and rightly so. That's got to be our main focus. So firstly, the pain's already been felt. You look at our playing squads, and I think it's important because there has been a reset, not just in Welsh professional rugby, but in rugby in general. And so it's easy to say, well, we had a 7.2 million squad and we're going to 4.5. The players and coaching salaries have had to feel the pinch here as well, and players who were earning X amount are now having to pick up jobs at Y. There has been a complete reset in the professional game. So there's a better value coming out of the playing squad, but being respectful of in making sure that there's a value that is on these people. But they're also outliers to this in France and Japan that are still playing the inflated salaries if players can pick those up as well. So that's the first part. The second part of your question, Carwyn, remind me, was?
Apologies about the growth that could possibly come, because I think is that figure right, that they expect 2 million from each region to grow in revenue? Was that the number?
Well, there are commercial targets, embedded in over the next 5 years. I think it's important to stress that the number that's been publicised is a number that isn't a survival number. It's what's the cost of the pro game to be competitive. So clearly, we're all here to be competitive, and therefore, what's it going to cost Welsh Rugby to get there? And that's the number that you've heard bandied around at 35 or 30 million, and it'll be an ever-moving number as things chop and change. And we here have got a massive commercial opportunity that is so much more so than any of the other regions, just in terms of our geographical location in the capital city, and our the corporate market, the number of chimney pots, we touched on the Arms Park earlier. That's huge in terms of commercial opportunity, and dare I say it, if we had a fit for purpose stadium with conference facilities and whatever else we put into a development, generating 2 million additional from Cardiff in a year, let alone over 5, should be an easy task. And people will say to me, well, you've got that market on your doorstep already. Why aren't you unlocking that as it currently stands? And we start to last season, our commercial program is extremely strong. Our box holder numbers for next year, I think we got 6 annual boxes left to sell, but we like to hold those back anyway for match by match sales. Our corporate clubs are selling very well. Our season memberships are on target and are already ahead of last season. But winning on the field and being competitive, and there's a pool of resource that the Welsh pro clubs are not currently dining from, and that's latter stage participation. So if you end up in a round of 16, a quarter-final, a semi-final, a final, that's not built into your P&Ls. But you need a competitive team to unlock that money. And every season that passes by that we're not being competitive, it's just lost opportunity. It's lost income. So the strategy that for the pro game has to come up with a formula that allows at least 1 or 2 of these clubs to be competitive, to have a chance of exploiting this commercial opportunity that sees benefit not just for those that are being competitive, but for the whole ecosystem to be to start turning the tide on these financials. And it's just it is frustrating. And my plan is to do that through hopefully a revised strategy and with the support of Helford. And then those numbers that look, 2 million sounds like a big number, but when, jeepers, I'll give you 2 numbers. When we played Leinster in the quarter-final, when I first took over the role, I think it was probably 10 years ago, in the quarter-final at the Eva, we got, for being an away team, we got a check in the region of £750,000. It's yes, you need one of those big gate fixtures, and that was a quarter-final. You then imagine doing a semi-final at home. Remember we played Leicester next door with 55,000 people in there. That was the second example. We can do it. We've proven here at Cardiff that the commercial opportunity is there. We need a helping hand to get us into that place where we can unlock that and then reinvest the monies back into, whether it's either Cardiff continuing to be successful or adopting a similar model to Ireland, where others are beneficiaries of the commercial success of another. But anyway, these are all just thoughts, ideas, and are being widely discussed, widely discussed, not wildly, and I'd like to hope would form some sort of basis for a new strategy for the pro game. So that's where we are with it.
On the Arms Park, obviously we had a fair few questions come in around that. I think we also had then in the meantime, Alan Jones sent a note to supporters on Friday where he spoke about short-term lease being agreed with the Athletic Club, about how no redevelopment is likely before 2028, with the club's 125th anniversary in 2026, and then the Millennium Stadium hosting Euro 2028 football. I mean, what you say obviously is correct about the Arms Park being this massive commercial opportunity, but I think we've spoken about that for so many years now. How do we get there? How do we make that happen? Is it Helford's money? Is that going to come into play? Is it private financing? The Athletic Club sorting it? It just seems to be something that we've waited for so long, but don't actually seem much closer to achieving.
I think the challenge up till now, Dan, has been personality driven. And individuals, around the negotiating table who, I'm just going to be blunt, we're probably never going to agree to concluding a transaction. That was just the reality. So we've got different people in the room now, and a genuine appetite from Athletic Club to find a solution to this. It's costing us nigh on £100,000 a year just to stay as we are and do the sort of remedial work that's required to open the gates for supporters. We've done a recent refurbishment of the pack bar. We're just sort of dabbling around and keeping the place looking okay, but all knowing that something more significant needs to be delivered. So we'll continue to do those those improvements and those works. As I said, a new proposal has gone, which is the first proposal that Helford have been part of to Athletic Club. But I see it, there's three sort of key parties involved in this, and I mentioned them earlier. There's clearly Athletic Club as the landlords, there's us as the tenant, and there's WRU as the Siamese twin neighbour. The Siamese twin is nobody really has got the head round the state of of how all the vital organs are actually conjoined in the Siamese twin relationship. And I'm looking out my window at it, and every time I look at it, it's challenging to say the least. But we all agree that if we can get this right here, let's play this forward and say if we had a ground that was fit for purpose for us, that would accommodate the professional rugby team and have it as a proper bespoke training facility, rather than the continuation of the temporary facilities, and we just deliver what we need for rugby, and then we used the rest of the space as a blank canvas to exploit whatever might be going on at the stadium, whether it's marquees, whether it's fan zones, whether it's with a sort of ingress and egress into the mothership, and we're airside to their events. Jeepers creepers, if we can do a couple $100,000 on Wales England with what we've currently got, imagine what we can do with a proper effort in conjunction with the WRU. And that's not building hotels, that's not building flats or a car park. That's just saying let's have a collaborative, joined up strategy to exploit Cardiff Arms Park. I look out the window and see 2,000 Taylor Swift supporters sat on a ramp waiting to go into the stadium. And then I look out this window and think, crikey, they should be on the pitch listening to a tribute band, with bars and toilets and retail, and they can still be front of the queue to get into the stadium, but the front of the queue happens to be the Arms Park. There's the opportunity. And I know people go, well, are we looking at this? Is every day we look at it, but we always get to a place where we're not fit for purpose currently to deliver it because there's too many challenges. But it wouldn't be too difficult a job to get us there quite quickly, and that's the bit that is the huge opportunity and excites me. And I. As I say, we've got a fresh proposal on the table with Athletic Club, and in terms of 2028 and the Euros, whilst we say we can't put a spade in the ground, well, I'm not sure that's entirely accurate. We can do a whole heap of work. We know these things take a lot of administration and time and effort and approvals and surveys and what have you. We can be doing all of that, and there's nothing saying we can't do elements of a redevelopment project, but ensuring that we're able to deliver our side of supporting the Welsh Government and FAW for 2028. And then when they walk out the door, we're ready to go full steam ahead for whatever is required post that. So it's Oh, it's been number one on my priority list, isn't it, since day dot? And I'm encouraged and hopeful, and it's we so desperately need it, and I hope that we're able to deliver it.
Oh, it sounds good. It's just for the frustration is mad. Like you can just think for everybody involved, there is no downside to it. Essentially, I don't quite. Is it just not resting on the athletic club now? Is it balls in their court to say yes? And is there something? Do you think that? So I'm an athletic club member. I think the vast majority, like the large majority of the athletic club membership is rugby section and will therefore be regulars at the Arms Park and Cardiff fans. Is there something that we can do to push it through, do you think? Or is it just the case that the trustees have just got to tick a box and let's go for it?
It's easy to blame the athletic because they're freeholders, but it's that's a complex organisation in itself who represent five sections, one of which is rugby, and you've got a bowl section who are on the Arms Park and can't just be evicted. I get it. It's a I sympathise with it, but there's definitely a will now from all parties to find a solution, and I'm hopeful and encouraged that we can get there. And some of the personalities that might have been a hindrance to progress historically, for one reason or another, are no longer around the table. And I'm hopeful that that'll help us as well. So I it's you know, being being vocal, being militant won't achieve anything. It's the route through this is through collaboration, similarly to the conversations with the Welsh Rugby Union, and a common desire, and also a common benefit from any development that a shared benefit rather than trying to trying to have a land grab for our own benefit. Let's benefit all parties. We're happy to do the heavy lifting. We're happy to find the investment required with our partners and new owners, and with the WRU. Let us solve that problem, and let's put in a solution that gives them the what they require from the transaction, plus skin in the game from any upsides moving forward. So yeah, it's a current work in progress, and we'll keep everyone posted, and fingers crossed we can get something across the line.
We had a few listener questions on the Arms Park, as I mentioned. Tony Esposito, I'm sure you know, mentioned about is there more ongoing work to improve the Arms Park, and specifically mentioned the South Terrace toilets, which are an experience in themselves. And then also touching a bit on what you said about sort of how we can maximise the commercial potential at the moment of the Arms Park with this new sort of semi-permanent gym facility is something like selling gym memberships to that when the players aren't using it, something which could be considered?
Yeah, well, we touched on earlier, didn't we? The ongoing works that go into the Arms Park, and they continue in terms of a lot of it. Granted, is aesthetics and not structural. And excuse me, and so it's we've only got so much resource to allocate. So I don't want anyone to get any false hope they're going to come and there's going to be significant changes, because they're not going to be in terms of but we'll do everything we can to make the match days experience as good as possible. In terms of the gym, the facility that we're putting in place for the pro team is not only for the first, it's for with the regional age grader based here, the academy. Wales 20s use the facility, as do Wales women. And also coupled with our public liability insurance, there won't be any scope. We have looked at it, any scope for public use as currently structured. But I have looked at it, and as part of the facility for any development moving forward, wouldn't it be great to have a public health and fitness centre that might be separate to the professional side, embedded into our facility in the centre of Cardiff that I think would be a good commercial opportunity. So these are decisions to make moving forward. But in the short term, whilst we have looked at it, we aren't able to achieve it because of our public liability insurance, and also regardless of the insurance, the usage is wouldn't allow it. And we sit as a team. I chair the operations meeting every Monday. We sit as an exec management team every Thursday. We look at every commercial opportunity available to us, and how we can further exploit the Arms Park site and different commercial streams. So if anyone's got any, like Tony, if anyone's got any ideas that we might not have, then whack him on social media, feed him through David Allen and the Supporters Trust, I've always been somebody who encourages outside input. So, but on the usage of the gym, it's one for a redevelopment, but hopefully, and but not the moment, Dan.
That's fair. Just moving on, conscious we only got you for a certain amount of time. There was a lot of chat this season, which wasn't necessarily directly related to Cardiff, but Cardiff were a player in the whole EDC and what became Super Rygbi Cymru. Just from your perspective, what was the timeline around the RFC sort of not being in it, then expressing interest, and then finally being one of the teams involved?
A lot of it was to do what we discussed right on the front end of this chat, which was the new ownership. We got caught up right in the middle of sort of that transition, this EDC decision. Commercially, I'll be honest. I think the Welsh Rugby Union put a huge amount of effort into constructing and concentrating on the rugby side of the competition, with probably not paying due attention to the commercial structure and of how that might play through. So we looked at it, did our numbers, and put simply, under our previous owners weren't willing to commit to the financial risk attached to the EDC. So that's where we said, this isn't for us. We're not involved. A lot of work then went in from a WRU standpoint to try and adjust and manipulate the tournament. But the main thing that happened was the completion of the transaction from the Peter Thomas family into Helford, that alleviated the financial pressures on the company, and a decision was taken that we could stomach the additional monies required to support the academy and the development side going into the EDC. So that's why we changed our tack. It's our friends at Pontypridd and Merthyr. For the similar reasons, we're in the same boat as us on the front end. They stuck with their decisions, and is the tournament worse for them not being there? In my opinion, yes. They're two of the strongest clubs in Premiership rugby history, coupled with Cardiff. Our region has always, by and large, provided the winners of the Premiership, and has delivered beyond to the success of the Premiership. And it's sad that they won't be there, but the decision's been taken. The new tournament is going to be getting underway, and our academy and our development department are excited about getting stuck into it. We've got a new coaching team headed up by Dan Fish, and Josh Turnbull coming in from a playing perspective. Although he's a level 4 coach, so he's pretty qualified, if not one of the most qualified coaches here. Sorry, it's landline going. Do apologise. It's my 10 o'clock meeting turning up, I think. So yeah, that's the timeline on it. But as with all these things, the decision's been taken. We'll get behind it. We'll support it, and we're looking forward to getting the season started and seeing how it goes.
Two quick questions. That one came in from Liam. I think you met at Llandovery in the semi-final up at Churchbank. He asked, what is your favourite RFC away trip or ground to go on in the Prem, or SRC as it now is?
Yeah, well, the Premiership. I'd always really enjoy the derby fixtures and getting up to particularly Sardis Road and some of the banter that Peter and I used to have with their supporters, albeit friendly. Llandovery was what an away trip that is. Just it's worth it just for the drive up through the Brecon Beacons on a sunny day, and it's a bit of a long way to go, but. I'll be honest, Dan. Given the calendar for the pro side, I probably don't get to as many away games as I'd like. I try to get to most of the home games here at Cardiff, but with the away travel in the URC, I tend not to get to too many. But the fact that I ended up on the terrace with the boys, despite the result. Sharing in their giant Watsits and their and being bought a pint at Llandovery in the sunshine was a great day out despite the result, and it's brilliant that the support can get out for Cardiff, and we're going to need that moving forward in the EDC. So it's Sardis Road or Llandovery would be up there, but limited to the amount of experience would be the honest answer to it as well.
Carwyn, anything from you?
Just what would you say to the fans ahead of the new season? We've heard a lot of doom and gloom about it, but what are your thoughts about a possibility of an exciting season? European just been announced as well. Well, we were speaking off pod about not knowing who you're playing yet, but exactly the possibilities that are going to be there, and the possibility at the end of the season of perhaps playing in a final at the Principality.
I think the experience we had last season will stand us in good stead for next, and I see I'm going to manage expectations, and Jockey would want me to do so. I think we hope to improve and convert some of those, as I mentioned earlier. The Arms Park's just a brilliant place to go. I love coming here. It's my office every day of the week, and every time I drive in, it's and then on match day, it comes alive, and I just want to say a huge thank you to all our supporters, our corporate partners, our sponsors, and everybody who helps us, everyone who stuck by us through the transition from the Thomas family to through to Helford. We won't have sight of the new strategy from the centre, but I hope that we'll be the beneficiaries of that as we embed the Helford new ownership model, and they get their feet under the table. We'll make the necessary improvements while keeping our feet on the ground. We got some amazing away trips. I've been to Lyon, the culinary centre of France, Perpignan. Why not go skiing afterwards? I'll leave Amsterdam off because you can make up your own minds what might be over there for to enjoy. If we pull Connaught. Another great place, in Parma, one of the best cities to visit on the URC calendar. So if it's for the rugby, we know where we stand. But even if it's for the away trips to have fun with the supporters clubs, with our and we're a family, aren't we? And I love going to the supporters pub on match day to meet with everyone for Dan didn't accept a beer off me when we bumped into each other in Paris, which I was disappointed. I'm sure next time I'll be able to encourage him to share a beer, but I think Tony was too busy. He had him lined up already. It's we need our supporters. The team need the supporters. I'm not going to get emotional about it because it's factual. We need our sponsors. All the money that's generated off our season memberships, off our ticket sales, it doesn't go to Helford Capital. It doesn't go to anywhere in the business other than strengthening the rugby department and enabling us to invest more into the playing squad. So it's a thank you for last season. It's a call to arms for next. we couldn't do it without our supporters, and there's nothing like a packed Cardiff Farmers Park. And if we can do it for Bath and we can do it for Harlequins, why not do it for the European fixtures and get ourselves some knockout rugby? If we can, last 16, as I mentioned earlier, then we start making significant inroads into that the shortfalls on the expected commercials over the next 5 years, and can invest it back into the rugby to make further improvements. So that would be what I would say. And thank you guys for all the work you do and in promoting the regional club rather in the work you're doing on the podcast.
That's great. Cheers, Dickie. Last question, just quickly, otherwise Harley would kill me as well. What's your favourite biscuit?
Oh, well, I had a few health issues, so I've tried to stop eating biscuits. I'm a big fan of a chocolate hobnob. I need a milk chocolate but we're probably up there. But my PA Beth is head of biscuits, so she's probably a better person to ask. But I'll go with the. What would yours be, Dan?
I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever asked us back before. I like a chocolate bourbon, mate.
Okay.
Could kill a packet of them.
I'd go custard cream, I think. Yeah.
Blimey, taking me back to my boarding school days, and you used to get them in a 3-pack with a pot of milk. But good choices. But chocolate hobnob for me. But you've got to dunk it quickly, otherwise it disintegrates in the cuppa. There's one of the comedians, isn't there, that does a sketch, I think, on stage about dunking biscuits, and I think it might be Peter Kay.
Yeah.
If anyone listening wants a funny listen, the Peter Kay dunking biscuit sketch is a good one to follow.
Dickie, thanks very much for coming on, giving up your time this morning. It's greatly appreciated by us, and I'm sure supporters glad to hear from yourself as well. From us on the podcast, we'll be back next week. We've got a couple more guests lined up, so keep an eye on our socials and we'll push them out and you can get any questions into them. But until then, Carwyn, thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers, Dickie.
Top stuff. Cheers, chaps.
Cheers all.
Thank you for listening to the Cardiff Central podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.